What is the second resurrection? What is the second resurrection? When we say second resurrection, what does it mean? And who are the people who are going to participate in this second resurrection? The other tip I made us to understand that we have two types of resurrections. First resurrection, which is the resurrection of believers of all ages when they come together. Resurrection of believers of all ages from the creation of Adam, from Adam until after the 7 years tribulation, before the millennium. That is, the resurrection of the believers will end before the millennium. So their resurrection will end before the millennium because every believer will enter into the millennium. So every believer will resurrect before the millennium. That is the first resurrection. But the second resurrection, that one is mainly for unbelievers of all ages, from Adam until after the millennium, whereby they will all resurrect and judged and cast into the lake of fire. So no unbeliever will resurrect until the millennium is over. No unbeliever will resurrect until the millennium is over. Why? Because during the millennium, there will still be unbelievers in the millennium. So some of them will die. They will even die. Some of them will die. So because of that, because most of them, let's say even all, because when the 1,000 years are over, remember that Satan will be released. And it is these unbelievers that Satan will deceive to rise against Christ. And that will be where Christ will destroy all of them. So they will die all at that point. So when they die all, that is where they will now resurrect and add to those who die since starting from Adam until after the 1,000 years. So they will now resurrect and stand before the great white throne judgment to determine the kind of punishment each have to receive. So the second resurrection is mainly the resurrection of the unbelievers. And with this type of resurrection, they don't receive glorified bodies. They still remain these bodies. That is why when they go to the fire, the lake of fire, they will feel it. Because this body fear fire. When we talk of fire, if you want, go and chop fire juju and say, me, I don't fear fire, and always sleep on fire. But that fire will burn you. So at this time, all the unbelievers will resurrect. Let's read here. Revelation chapter number 20, verses 6. Blessed. Okay, let's start from verses 5 and read. It says this way. The rest of the dead did not come back to life until the 1,000 years were ended. The rest of the dead did not come back to life. Who are the rest? That is the unbelievers. They will not come back to life until the 1,000 years are over. And that is what we call the second resurrection. They will not come back to life after the 1,000 years are over. Good. Let's continue and finish the verse 6. Blessed and holy are those who have part in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God and of Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. So what is saying is that those who participate in the first resurrection, that is the resurrection of the believers, the second death has no power over them. And what is the second death? I believe we spoke the other time about the second death, and we said the second death is the lake of fire, where the final destination of the unbelievers, the lake of fire, that is their final destination. Their final destination is not hell. Their final destination is the lake of fire. Go and listen to that tape. You get more. Good. So what we're saying is that these people will not come back to life until the 1,000 years are over. So they will still remain in hell. They will still be in the hell. And their bodies will still be in the graves. Until the 1,000 years are over, the hell, they won't take them out of the hell, romance and judge, and send them to their final destination. So the second resurrection is the general, and they will just rise generally. All of them will just resurrect at once. They will not resurrect in series, just like the first resurrection. You know the first resurrection, that one is in series. Series means it's in steps, starting from Jesus. It came to the church, the tribulation, Matthias, and in the Old Testament. You see that one has series from Jesus till the last, the Old Testament, four. But these ones, all of them, great, small, rich, poor, white, blue, green, all of them, they are just resurrecting one day at a time. No difference. Good. Let us read here. The same Revelation, chapter number 20, verses 13 through 15. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it. Earth and sky fled from his presence, and there was no place left for. There was no place for them. Then I saw the dead. Listen. Then I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they had done, as recorded in the books. The sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and each person was judged according to what he had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. If anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Now, have you seen it? You see that the second, that is where the unbelievers are all coming, and they will now stand before the great white throne judgment. And the other time we explained that immediately you appear before the great white throne judgment, no salvation for you again. The only thing is that you appear there for Christ to determine the type of punishment, the kind of punishment that you deserve. Because we said in hell or in the lake of fire, there will be degrees of punishment based on what you do on earth here. So if you are so wicked, you are only compiling your punishment, waiting for the future to come. Good. So these people, great, small, rich, poor, they all stand before him. They all come back to life. And Hades give up the dead. What is Hades? You remember the Hades that we spoke about. We said Hades is the Greek term for the Sheol, and it is divided into two. It is called the Hades means place of the dead, and it is divided into two: place of comfort and place of torment. So the place of torment is what we call the hell. That is where the unbelievers go when they die. So what it says is that after the millennium, the hell will release the Gehenna. He will release the dead that are in them. And the death, that is the grave, where they are, where the bodies are, will also release them. So their bodies will also unite with their souls at this point in time. And then they will judge them based on the books. So if your name is not written in the book of life, that is where you will now be thrown into the lake of fire. So this is the resurrection, the second resurrection. So this is where all all ages, the unbelievers of all ages will resurrect. And they are resurrecting to stand before the great white throne judgment, to determine their punishment. So their resurrection is to stand, to resurrect, to come back to life. Their bodies will come back to life, but not glorified bodies, the same mortal bodies, but they will not die. They will still be the same thing, but their bodies will not die. So if I say mortal, I don't mean they will die. What I mean is that it will still be the same, this body, feeling pain, but they will not die. They will still have eternal life, long life, unending life, but they cannot get glorified bodies. So that they will now stand there before Christ to determine their punishment. So the second resurrection is the resurrection of the unbelievers of all ages, and it will come after the millennium. So when the millennium is over, that is where they will now resurrect. You see that believers' resurrection will end before the millennium, but the unbelievers will end after the millennium. Meaning after the millennium, that means during the millennium, believers will not die. Because all the believers will enter into the millennium. And if you enter there, you won't die. You will still go. You go through the 7 years. And after the 1,000 years, after the 1,000 years, you will now receive your glorified body, and then you will enter into eternity. Because without the glorified body, you can't enter into eternity. So after you go through the 1,000 years, and after the 1,000 years, you will now receive your glorified body and enter into eternity. So those who will experience resurrection at this point in time is only the unbelievers. And that is the second resurrection. Thank you for your time.